The next chapter that we are going to discuss is time domain analysis. Okay, so in the previous chapter we studied mathematical modeling. Okay, so if a control system is given, right, we have to describe this control system mathematically in order to develop a mathematical model, right? So that was mathematical modeling. Now once a mathematical model is developed, okay, we have to study the performance of the system. Okay, so this performance is what we are going to study in time domain analysis. Okay, so why do we call it as time domain analysis? When you consider a control system, okay, some input will be given to the control system, right, in some input signal, and whatever output you are going to get, that will be expressed in terms of time. Okay, so the output is a function of time. Now the output is often called as response, right, because whatever input you are giving to the control system, it is responding to that input, right? So we often call the output as response. Now since the output is a function of time, we call it as time response. Okay, now because we are analyzing this time response, that is we are analyzing the output, we call this as time domain analysis. Okay, so we also have frequency domain analysis, so this we will study in later chapters, right? So for now we will analyze the system in terms of its output, which is a function of time. So this is called as the time domain analysis. Now the output will have two parts. One is called as the transient part and other is called as the steady state part. Okay, so transient part is that part of the output which dies with time. Okay, while the steady state part is that which remains after the transient part dies. Okay, so in order to analyze a system, we have to analyze the transient part also and the steady state part also. Okay, the transient part, it will help us analyze the system behavior whenever there is some disturbance or whenever there is some sudden change in the system. Okay, so in that way the transient part analysis will help. Okay, and the steady state part, it is the final output, right? So final output should match with the desired output. Okay, so this is how the steady state analysis will help. Okay, so transient part, some of the parameters of transient part are, we will learn as we progress. We have peak time, we have peak overshoot, okay, and settling time. Okay, so these are all the parameters that we are going to see in transient part analysis. And steady state analysis, you are going to study steady state error. Okay, now the first step here is, in order to study the time response, the first step will be to give some input to the control system, right? Only when you give an input you will get an output, so that you can study the output. Okay, so now the question is, what will be the input that will be given to the control system? Okay, so for this we have some standard signals. Okay, so we will see what are those signals now. Okay, first one is the step signal. Okay, this will have a constant value after a particular time. Okay, so this is the time axis and this is the, let us say the input signal is r of t. Okay, so this value will be some constant, let us say a. Okay, if it is a unit step input, then a will be equal to 1. Okay, so let us say the signal starts at t is equal to 0. Okay, now r of t is given by a into u of t, where u of t is the unit step signal. In the Laplace domain, this will be equal to R of S will be equal to A by S. Okay, so this is the Laplace transform of the unit step signal. Okay, the next signal that we have is the ramp. Okay, so this will be like this. It will have a constant slope. Okay, and the slope will be given by, let us say, A. Okay, so this is given with respect to time. Okay, and this we will get as R of t. Okay, now the signal R of t, it can be expressed as the slope into time and u of t. Okay, so why do we write u of t, the unit step signal? It just means that the signal is going to start from t is equal to 0. Okay, so what will happen if you do not put u of t? The ramp signal A into t will be given like this, right? But we don't want this signal. We want only the ramp input from t is equal to 0. Okay, so that is why we put this unit step in the signal. Okay, now the Laplace transform of this function will be A by S square. Okay, the next important signal is the parabolic input. Okay, so here the signal will be proportional to the square of time. Okay, so the signal will look like this. Okay, so this is R of t with respect to t. This can be expressed as R of t is equal to A by t into t square u of t. So we can see that it is proportional to square of time, and we are using the unit step signal to indicate that it is starting from t is equal to 0. Okay, and the Laplace transform of this is R of S is equal to A by S cube. Okay, because if you take a signal t power n, then what will be its Laplace transform? This will be n factorial by s to the power n plus 1. Okay, so here you have t square. Okay, a by 2 t square, right? So this will be a by 2 will remain as it is into n factorial, which is 2 factorial divided by s cube. So you will get a by s cube. Okay, so in order that we get a by s cube, okay, no other constant is present, we are taking the constant here as a by 2 in the time domain. Okay, so there is no other reason. Instead of taking a, we are going to take a by 2, so that the Laplace will not have any other constant in the function. Next we have the impulse input. Okay, so this is given by R of t is equal to A into del of t, where del of t is the unit impulse function. Okay, so what is the unit impulse function? It will have a magnitude of almost, if it will have a very large magnitude, okay, infinitely large magnitude within a infinitesimally small period of time at t is equal to 0. Okay, so the area under this impulse function will be given by 1. That is the unit impulse input. Okay, and if it is given by A into del of t, that means that the area under this function is A. Okay, as simple as that. So this is R of t and this is t. Now in the Laplace form, this will be R of S is equal to simply A. Okay, because the Laplace transform of the impulse function is 1.